Okay, I'm gonna make a quick video on a particular product that I originally did not expect to like, but it turns out I really, really like it now. And I'm not doing this as a way to get money. This isn't an ad. I'm getting no commissions from this whatsoever. This recommendation or this product review is strictly my opinion. Okay? So you might find that you don't like this particular product. I particularly really, really like it. So the product itself is this one right here. It's one color that I originally did not anticipate to like because I'm actually a big fan of simplicity. I don't like complicated collars or equipment in general. So the second I start to see too many buttons, too many features, too many settings, it just automatically turns me off. I want nothing to do with it. And just to give you an example, one collar that I've never quite particularly been a fan of is e-collar technologies. That's just my opinion. I know some of you guys love e-collar technologies. I don't particularly like it because it's a bit complex. It has a few too many settings. And I know you're probably thinking it's not a big deal, it only has a few settings. But to me, the simpler it is, the better. Now, one color that I was very fond of, and still am, is Sport Dog. Sport Dog, the newer models, they're very simplistic. It's 7 levels, really 21 levels, and it has a thumb dial, and the thumb dial tells you exactly what level you're on. So it's not a rheostat smooth dial like some of the other e-collars have, like e-collar technologies or Doctra have that very smooth dial, which I'm not a fan of. Also, the Sport Dog doesn't have any crazy fancy features unless you choose to program it as such. But even when you program it, still not very fancy. So I was very lenient towards the Sport Dog models, the newer ones at least. The older ones, they were a little bit too harsh. They were not as sophisticated as the newer ones. But that was my dog collar, my e-collar of choice for a long time. I had tried Dogtra, I had tried Sport Dog, I had tried e-collar technologies, DT, I had tried Garmin, I tried Tronics, which I thought was a good collar too. Now you could argue that Garmin has kept some of the Tritronics features, but I know the Pro 100 was one collar that I liked from the Tritronics lines, which I found a little bit I found very consistent, fairly simple to use. The only thing I didn't like about the Pro 100 is the remote was very big, pretty huge. So when I saw and when I started hearing about this collar, Martin Systems or the Chameleon, right away, just it didn't seem like it'd be something that I would be interested in. It didn't seem like simple enough. It had the screen, the buttons, the settings, the finger kick, the Bluetooth. It already just screamed complexity at me when I heard about it. And then I started seeing it on videos, I saw a couple of reviews, and it just didn't quite click for me. It wasn't a huge thing that made me go, wow, I need to get that collar. But, I gave it a try, and I was a little bit hesitant at first. I was like, I'm going to have to get used to this now, because I'm so used to using the Sport Dog, right? Because it's the one collar that I really liked, and I'm going to try something kind of new where the dial is different, the settings are a little bit different, the mode of operation is different. It's almost like switching from an Android to an iPhone or the other way around. So I started playing around with it. I tested it on myself. I tried all the levels on me. It's something I do with every collar because every collar has a particularly unique sensation. This is trademarked by each company. So I tried it, I played around with it, I put it on my dog. My dog is already e-collar conditioned. All of my dogs are. So when I put it on, we just went from a Sport Dog to this particular collar. And right away, one of the things that I really liked about it, and then I liked this before I even tried the collar, is the fairly low profile receiver. So the receiver is fairly low profile. If you put this on the dog, it doesn't even look like an e-collar. Your average e-collar has a strap, and it has a receiver that's a little bit of a box. Now some receivers are fairly small, some receivers are pretty big, but you still see the receiver unless you hide it with some sort of collar that goes on top of it. For the most part, you can tell when a dog is wearing an e-collar. For this right here, when I put it on my dog, you couldn't even tell the dog was wearing an e-collar. My wife commented on this. All the people commented on this. I've had people that go, oh, what is that? When I say it's an e-collar, they're like, really? It doesn't even look like an e-collar. So one thing that I really liked about that was this low-profile receiver. Another thing I liked about this, again, this is before trying it. Despite the fact that it seemed a little bit complex for my taste, one thing that I did like about it is the different contact points. I remember, I know I sound like I'm making a commercial here, but I get zero commission from this. I don't sell these, so this is again just my opinion on the product. If you look at my YouTube channel, if you look at my playlist on their product review, I have a bunch of products on there that I use and that I recommend based on my experience on the product. So the same thing with the book reviews. But anyway, let's get back to this. So the contact points is one of the things that I liked about this, because normally the receivers on an average e-collar, they just have 2 contact points, and it's just on one side. So if the whole strap goes around the dog and only one part of that strap, which is the receiver, is on this side of the dog's neck, then you have 2 contact points on that side of the dog's neck. The other thing you can do with those e-collars is you can double them up, so one strap could have 2 receivers. So then you have one receiver on this side, one receiver on that side, and then then you have that option for more consistency. People think, oh, it's so that it hurts the dog more. It's not to hurt the dog more. It's just for more consistency. When the receiver is on this side, the dog can turn back and forth, lose contact. When the receiver is on both sides, or when the contact points are on the other side of the neck, then the dog can move around and the dog does not lose contact. So that's one thing that I liked about this, is I don't have to double it up. It just has the contact points kind of all the way around. The other thing that I liked about it right from the beginning is the Bluetooth finger cake, which before trying it I thought, man, that's a really cool idea, a really cool concept. But at the same time, I remember thinking, but how am I going to control the levels from here, right? I didn't know about this, so I didn't know how it functioned. So I just knew that this was a Bluetooth device that connected to your transmitter, your remote, but I didn't really know how it actually would change the levels, because it doesn't look like you would be able to change the levels here. So right away I like that too, but now it starts to look a little bit too complicated for my taste, where I'm thinking, I don't know if I would sacrifice simplicity for the sake of this little gadget, which is the receiver, right? Which is the finger cake, the Bluetooth device. Then I looked at the remote. Now this is the tiny trainer, so the remote is pretty small, and it has a digital screen, so the levels are digital. It goes all the way to level 9. And now I'm starting to think, I really don't like this collar just by looking at it, right? Again, when I started trying it, I started playing around with it, and I was like, I don't know if I like this. It has 9 levels, and I gotta go up one at a time to get to the level. It has one stem button right here. This is the on and off button, and these are your dials. And like the sport dog, I can go from level 1 to level 5 instantly. I just feel the 5 clicks or the 4 clicks, and very quickly I know I'm on level 5 without even having to look at the remote. When I'm done with that, if I needed to go to 5 and I need to go right back to 1, right back to my working level, then I can immediately go all the way down, +1, and now that's my working level. And with the sport dog, I not once had to look at the remote. When I started looking at this, I was like, man, now I'm gonna have to actually look at the remote. And now I'm starting to think, I really am not gonna like this. But when I started trying it, that's when I learned how to actually use it. And I'm gonna give a shout out to my buddy Yotis from Quadrant K9. He's the one who hooked me up with this setup. And it just seemed a little bit more complicated than it actually is. When I started using it, I realized that this is actually way easy. This is one of the easiest collars one of the easiest systems I've used, even more so than the Sport Dog. Now I still like Sport Dog, but now after using the Chameleon, the Tiny Trainer, the Martin systems, I find it much more compelling for me to tell you I would prefer to definitely use a Martin systems than I would be to use a Sport Dog. Whereas before, Sport Dog was my #1 choice. Now, after using this is much better because it has the complexities of a very nice collar, but it has the simplicity of use of a collar that is, very to the point. So to give you an idea here, once I turn this on, right, and I'm on level 1, this is my lowest possible level, right? I don't have to even think about dialing it up with this. I don't have to look at this and go, crap, I gotta go to the next level. I can. That is one mode to operate it with, but I also have the ascending mode, which is I can go from here to, I could, stem that one time, or I could hold it and it'll ascend until my dog feels the stimulation, and then it goes back to the beginning. It goes back on its own. So on the Sport Dog, I'll have to dial it up, and then I'll have to dial it down. Now, at this point, if you're thinking, why would you want to do that? I don't understand why you would need to do that. I don't understand why you would have to go to level 5, so on and so forth. Then clearly you're not ready for this review yet. If you don't understand the basic concept of e-collar training, which is there are different levels because dogs' tolerance changes because of the environment. The environment changes, tolerance changes, and therefore your collar has to be able to have different levels to match those changes in tolerance based on the environment, right? Not to mention that there are different ways to use the collar. You could use it as escape conditioning, avoidance conditioning. You could use it as prompting. You could even use it to activate the dog. There are very different ways to use the collar. It doesn't just have to be a hammer. So again, if you don't understand why I'm talking about these different functions, go back to some of the other videos that I have on e-collar training, conditioning the e-collar. This is a review, so if this is really way over your head, then you're just going to be confused by watching this review. So anyway, I found that this was actually a lot simpler. So I can go back to, my working level could be 1, and if I'm on 1, that's fine. But I could also do, I could hold it, and then, the environment changes, tolerance goes up. If I need to go to a little bit of a higher level, then I'll hold it. It'll ascend on its own. It'll convey the message to my dog, and then I can go right back to the original level. Turning it on and off is actually pretty simple. It's just a magnet turning on, just like the dog trot, just like the e-collar technologies. To turn it off, same thing. Charging it. Now, charging it is one thing that I'm not a fan of. This is an honest review. Okay, this is I'm not just telling you this is the best thing in the world and it has no flaws. Certainly, there are some things that this particular model just kind of compromises a little bit, but there are other models that just make things much easier, right? And obviously the collar, the company itself is growing. The technology is going to get better. But the charging, now to charge it, this is a little bit of a hassle. with the other collars, you just plug it in, plug it into the wall, and then just let it charge. With this, you got the alligator clamp, so it's basically you're hooking up a battery, right? You hook that up to here, you hook that up to the matching color, and then you put this on a little charging pad, and then from here you plug it into the wall. So that's a little bit of a hassle. Again, this is an honest review, but when I look at that and I look at the simplicity of use and the fact that I have different modes on this, and the fact that this is a very low profile receiver, and the fact that I don't have to have the remote in my hands, I could have it in my pocket and I could just operate with a finger kick. When I look at all the benefits of this particular unit and I look at the little bit of a hassle with charging it, to me it's worth it. I look at that and I'm like, that's really not a huge deal. I'll deal with that any day when I have all the benefits of a low profile receiver, multiple contact points, Bluetooth finger kick, and an operating mode that just makes it easier for me to train with. So I will definitely take all of those, and the little bit of a hassle of charging it, which, by the way, you're only charging this thing like once a week, if that. So, and I use it pretty consistently. I'm not using it like every once in a while. I'm using this for prompting. I'm using this for activating, and I am using it occasionally for corrections. So this thing does have its fair share of use, and even then I'm only charging this thing like once a week, twice a week or so, no more than that. So I really like the collar. Thank you Yotis, thank you Quadrant K9 for hooking me up with that.